begin now. Connect to your standing practice, please, and literally come to standing. As you stand on your 2 feet, can you observe, please, how you are sensing the earth beneath your feet, beneath your toes, and please observe your breathing. So inhale, exhale, let that breath be natural, breathe in through the nose, possibly release the breath out through the mouth, just allowing that sense of coming to your Pilates body. So alignment, breathing, and centering, which of course is really an important essence of your movement practice. And today's is focusing all around stability of the pelvis, of course the engagement of the deep abdominals to support the low back, and also how you might strengthen the glute medius, minimus, and maximus, so the gluteal muscles, inner thighs, outer thighs, and essentially check that the alignment of the knees, so checking that the knees remain centered all the way through. Oftentimes we have a difference between the left and right hip. We might have a feel sense of a stronger hip, but can, aside from any serious health history and narrative that you've got, try to observe each practice, right side, left side, with an open mind. Okay, so we are going to start with a little bit of swinging into the leg. So I'm going to place my left foot up onto the yoga brick or block. You might have one at home. Level off your pelvis as best you can. Maybe hold a wall or a chair. And then can you just swing your leg forward and back? So can you feel quite centered? Maybe the knee has to soften a little bit. Foot is relaxed. How is it? You don't have to swing up and back in a really strong way, but what does it feel like to just get some glossy movement into that hip? And that is hip flexion as the hip comes forward and extension as it comes back. And so often we get very grippy and tight in the hip flexors because we're sitting all the time, we're over sitting, we have an over sedentary lifestyle, and we're collapsing the body on top of those hips. So you are standing strongly into that left leg. You might notice a kind of harnessing of the left buttock and the gluteals, just toning in around the midline and swinging that leg, and then bend the knee, bend the knee. So that's just coming a little bit more into that hip flexion. Breathing and allowing that leg to swing, and then releasing. Take a little moment, step off of your block, meet that leg with the earth. If necessary, step off completely, and just notice how you're feeling. And then let's just go straight to the second side. This can be a much slower practice, but I've got quite a lot of content I want to get into the practice today, so we're not going to be too slow with this, but do slow down if necessary. So bringing your right leg, if you have it, onto the yoga block, pressing out through your bare foot, and then start to swing the left leg. You can put your hands around the edges of the pelvis or onto the hip points. And remember, we're trying not to lean, so keeping as best you can crown above shoulders. How is this leg swinging? You'll start to feel the strength also coming into the bones of the ankle, the foot bones, and then you might swing one or two of them, might be a little bit more range. Step off, take a little break, come back, swing again, softly. Or add in the knee bend, the knee bends. It's not uncommon to hear a few little clicks and cracks, which is all about the joints just drawing away from each other. So you get this feeling of thwack as there's space coming into those joints. Now, obviously, when you're standing on that block, so I'm going to go back on to the block or brick on my left side. So my left foot is planted. Another really great action you can offer your body when you have your leg raise like this. So I've got the ball of my right foot on the earth and my left foot on the block. So bringing the hands around the pelvic ribs, and then as you sort of press down through the left, so you want to be quite firmly engaged through that left foot and slightly soften left knee. Can you hike your right hip up? So using the oblique muscles, the side body muscles, squeeze the hip up and then lengthen it down. So I'm just kind of tapping the earth. I'm pausing for a moment just to gather good alignment energy. I'm just tapping the earth. And then I'm going to shorten the side muscles, but essentially, can you get the biomechanical action of hiking your hip up? So squeezing the right hip up, squeezing the right hip up. Can you suck that hip upwards as we sort of press down through that left side? And it may be quite a subtle action. So you might need to really immerse yourself in that for 6 or 8 moves, or again, just take a rest, come off of the block, and then come back. And essentially, you may also want to hold onto a wall or shelf. So if I get a little bit nearer to the screen for that, you might be able to see that a little bit better. So just trying to feel that the pelvis starts off relatively level by having the left foot on the block, the right toes on the earth or the ball of the foot. Hand is around the pelvis. You want to make sure you're connecting to the bones, and then hike and drop. So when I drop, I'm trying to drop back to level position here. So pelvis level. My foot now is just sort of dangling, my right foot. Left leg is quite strong, so feeling centered. Inhale, exhale, hike, and level off. So we're drawing that hip up and then lengthening it away. And be curious as to how well that works for you. And then standing off. Bring both hands onto the pelvis, feet standing hip wide, both feet on mat or floor. And just a very gentle pelvic circle. And gentle for you and I may mean that we move slower. Maybe the range is quite small. And you don't have to have your hands on the pelvis. You can let your arms dangle down and be quite relaxed in your breath and movement. And then notice how much flow motion is happening in the ribs, in the body. Notice how it's like the ribs and the head are just being carried along for the ride on that circular pelvis. And then let's roll in the other direction, or if you have done both directions, just keep going. Just noticing the changing foot pressures. And then bring yourself to center. Imagine that you're between 2 panes of glass and slide left. And slide right. So I'm going to bring my hands out of the way there so you can maybe see that more, but you don't always have to look in the screen. Once you've noticed what we're doing, come into your body's practice. So sliding left and sliding right. And then of course another hip action that we all want to be able to have with ease is rotation. So I'm just turning the hips right and left, and at the same time I'm turning the torso, keeping the eyes forward. And then how does it feel if you actually keep your head and torso steady and you just isolate the rotation of the hips? So maybe just create a prayerful mudra like we do in yoga, or interlace the fingers, or hold your hands at the heart center to encourage your crown, nose, breastbone to be in alignment. And then just turn your hips left and right. And keeping your torso and your head steady and be in observance of that action. Be really curious as to whether you turn left more than right or right more than left. And also observe the ease of movement. Breathe well, possibly slow that down. So I'm going to invite you to come back to the hiking action. So now I'm asking you to step your right foot onto the block, and you can balance with this, or you can hold your wall or shelf or chair. Let yourself gaze into the distance. If you've got a mirror in your practice room, that's great. And then remember, you're going to try and draw your hip up and down, and it's the left now because we've got the right foot raised onto the raised surface. So squeeze up and then come back to neutral if you can. Hike and drop. And notice how this creates that shift in the side bodies. And that's because if you're actually living in a hiked hip, you'll notice, and I'm exaggerating that there, keep going, but you'll notice that it creates a kind of human scoliosis. It can create a kind of functional curvature in the spine. Okay, so completing your hip hikes, please. And then again, choose to potentially hold a wall or go to the wall or hold a shelf, or you can be freestanding. Just make sure the props are out of the way there. And then come into your Pilates standing practice and generously pour weight into one of the legs, and then just take the other leg back behind you and see if you can just notice. So what I'm doing is I'm going to tap the toe, keep centered, and then just curl the foot away, and it's behind me. So this is like a very slow hamstring curl. So you'll feel the strength coming into the hamstrings. Try and keep the pelvis steady. Please avoid a back bend and try and avoid leaning forward. So body is well stacked. Tap, curl, tap, curl. So lots of concentration required for that standing strengthener. So you're strengthening the chain at the back from the gluteals to the hamstrings. Setting up the second side, so maybe 5 or 6 on each side. So you initially might just stand and of course pull weight into the right leg, hands on the pelvis, connect to the pelvic core, and then as you float the left lower leg away, can you stand well and not drop the hips? So try not to, in your balance, hike the opposite hip. So can you keep the hip point steady? I'm going to tap my toe and then curl, tap, curl. Remember to breathe. And some of you might be on the wall, so you're holding the wall or holding a chair. Inner thighs are strong, so you're really allowing your center to be centered. And then inhale, exhale, let that go. You might just want to shake out your legs. And then we'll make that perhaps a little bit stronger with a little bit more range. So maybe a good idea to definitely hold on to a wall or shelf for this one. And I'm going to step the right foot back again. So the working leg is the right leg, the left leg is the strong one. You might even want to bend your left knee and bend both knees and make sure that your left foot is really embedded and you are really connected to the earth. To come on this low shelf, I think. And then what I'm going to do is draw the leg back a little bit more. Now you'll notice possibly in your body that initially you get a kind of spinal extension through this action. So draw up through the hips and do your best to lengthen the lumbar and draw in through the abdomen. So just lengthen out as best you can. And then keeping that length, tip forward. So you're in a quarter tilt. And again, curl, keep the inner thigh strong, flex the foot. So this is the kind of stable position here. And then what I'm going to do is push away and then bend. So it requires a lot of concentration to keep the body anchored in this, if like, tabletop back. So it's a tilt with the table back, flexing the back foot, push, curl, bend. Try not to let that leg flare out, okay? So pelvis headlamps are facing the earth. Press, curl. Remember, the ankle is flexed. You haven't got a soft foot pointed. Lengthen, lengthen, squeeze. So this back line from the buttock to the hamstring should feel powerful and strong. Slow it down. Press, squeeze, press it and squeeze it. And 5 or 6 of those, and certainly if you're engaged mind, body, breath, you will feel that. Inhale, exhale. Add in a few more if necessary, but please, no need to rush. You need patience when you're offering your body muscular strength, and you need to be able to harness that energy. After your first side, so that was the right working leg, going into those lengthenings and curls, yeah? Maybe take the wall, again, as your reference, spread out the feet, possibly shoulder wide, and lengthen into L-shaped stretch. Inhale, exhale, and if you're happy to do so, feel these muscles open up. Eye back of knee opens up, knee in line with hip and ankle, and it feels just quite lovely also in the shoulders. I'm going to sway side to side, and then lift back. So setting up a good alignment for your second side. Remember that you are on the wall. Your working leg is the left leg. You're going to pull weight into the right leg and just tilt enough. But try to keep alignment rather than coming into a back bend. So it's really difficult to engage those lowest abdominals if you're in an anterior tilt of the pelvis. So draw up. Legs are hip wide. You're holding the chair or the shelf, and you're going to bend that back leg and flex, and then just find again that kind of elongation of the tail. Push away and curl. Push and curl. Press, breathe, squeeze, curl. So the bending of the knee isn't actually really a curl, is it? But now and again, you'll find maybe you back bend and then lengthen again. So if necessary, stand more upright, but pushing the heel away, and then slow bending, push, slow bending, and observing whether those muscles are firing up well for you. Inhale, exhale, come to your Pilates standing position, arms overhead. Ease out the side bodies. I just want to draw right arm as you pull to the right. You may want to hold the wrist of the left. I'd love you to feel the skin of the torso just drawing away from the side hips there as you take those arms overhead. And feel the front body lengthen as well in an overhead. Roll the shoulders out, roll the arms out, softening head, neck and throat. Inhale, exhale. Let's come back to L-shaped stretch at the wall, but this time, so whether your body is more upright, like this kind of tilt, or whether you are comfortable to move into that table back, there's the option, yeah. Bend one knee and allow the other leg to be straight, and then bend one knee and allow the other leg to be straight. And as you bend the knee, can the knee travel forward? Can you check just that your knee is traveling forward? So what you don't want is obviously bandy legs or knock knees. Yogis in the room, we can allow that practice to come in deeper, so we can be in a full extended position down on the earth, or again you can of course use your yoga block or brick if you have it, and then again bend the knee, lengthen, inhale, exhale, bend the other knee. And if you want to move a little faster, you can. Feel how your pelvis, it creates a semicircle. So as you bend each leg, the hips and pelvis flow into that semicircle. So it's essentially like walking on the spot. But you'll notice there's more kind of sense of muscle lengthening because you've dropped the weight of your body over those legs. So allow that one to finish. Inhale, exhale, come back to standing. And then similarly, just as you walk on the spot with your feet grounded, so not this kind of lifting of the heels that we sometimes do in Pilates, just with the feet fully grounded, spreading out the toes. Please don't stand with duck feet doing this, please no. So try to have observance of your 10 toes forward or going towards forward. So if you've been a duck feet person all your life, it's going to be tricky to just come all the way out from ducks to forward, but you know, essentially you might need to narrow off a little bit, and just like once you're in, just let the walking on the spot happen as you breathe and try and feel very easeful and glossy through that action. And as best you can, try not to hold your torso very rigid so that it's just a, you know, a frozen body with kind of an action coming from your knees. So really let everything shimmy and slide so that the shoulders are having that rolling action and your torso is moving as well as you breathe, as if you're strolling along the most beautiful summer beach in the hot sunshine and feeling completely relaxed, you know, that holiday strolling that can feel really lovely. Good. Okay, so we're going to come into the strong Pilates plank now. So please come to the back of your practice mat. And those that are happy to use roll down, we will roll down. So at the back of the mat, again, find your upright position, stand well, and consciously stand. So as you stand well, be able to really embody this sense of being here now in your beautiful posture and your wonderful, wonderful breath. Inhale as you exhale, nod the chin down. Another way here we can really observe ourselves, looking to toes, checking that pelvis, knees and ankles are aligned, spreading out your toes. I like an assisted roll down. So maybe you just draw these belly muscles in enough. And then as you slide your palms down the legs, maybe pause at the knees with the palms softly on the knees and scoop your belly in more and see if you can find a C-shaped curve. Chin to chest maybe, looking into heart center, and then slide on more if that's appropriate. And of course, you may have already done 1 or 2 of these, but if you're going slow motion, once you're on mat there with the back palms resting just straight down, maybe sway side to side, pour the weight to the right foot, to the left foot, pour your weight to the toes, pour weight to the heels, and then make your way into Pilates plank. And as you press the palms under the shoulders and walk the hands out, have your feet narrow hip wide, and as you press crown away from tail and align successfully, draw the shoulders back broadly, lift into the ribs and anchor through the legs and really feel that strong position. Now maybe your heels reach back a little bit and you feel that action. So this for me gives a nice sense of release into the calf muscles. But essentially, can you stack your ankles above those toe knuckles and then float the right toes foot away so that the heel and toes do not reach higher than your hips. Bring that back. Just going to walk away from my sofa there. So press and breathe and then lengthen again. Squeeze, press, center, feel muscles engage. Of course, you can add another few repetitions to this. It's known as Pilates leg pull plank, but you may prefer to rest with your knees down, come to kneeling, or add in a child's pose or a shell stretch. So allow yourself to really embrace that practice, or take a pause and refresh. And of course, the other option would be to be on all fours and slide the leg away, top of the foot reaches back, but be careful that you do not overdo the range. And remember that if you sink your torso, you're going to be in a back bend. So you do want to, again, push the earth away and lengthen out. Slide, lift and lengthen. And feel the muscles engage. Slide, lift and lengthen. Slide, lengthen. Yes, so the all fours version is different, but can feel also really, really good. So let's now offer Pilates side lying and a series of actions that really, really strengthen your muscles, especially the gluteals. So align your hips and pelvis onto your blanket or padded area. I'm going to start on the right side, so the working hip is going to be the left. And you can bring your elbow onto the earth so that you're in a high elbow format. Remember that you want to stack your shoulders successfully and carefully, and the option is also to cradle the head like this and find that your torso is engaged. Bring your legs from the bent knee practice, align them so that the lower leg is straight, the top leg is straight, but they're maybe at a little angle towards the front of the mat. So it's not necessarily that you're in like a long pencil and you've brought that angle forward. And then no collapse of the ribs, please. So try to observe that your ribs are engaged through the abdominals. Now let's bring the top leg to lengthen out of the hips, stacking the hips, and flex the heel. So push the heel away from you. And then reach that leg back just enough. So as you reach it back, you'll open that frontal hip, and it's at the height of your hip. Belly muscles are toned, and you do not want to rock that pelvis. Point the foot and reach the leg forward. Flex, push back. Point forward, flex back. forward, flex back. And if you have to have your hand just in front of the navel, you can, or you may feel able to put your top left hand on top of the thigh or the pelvis. So we point the toes forward, keep this pelvis stable, flex and push back. Point and flex, point and flex. And there's going to be about 8 of these. But you can do 6 and you can do 10. And now point the foot, level off again, and circle forward for 1, 2, 3. Now circles could be really large, so that depends on your range, and they could also be quite small or medium. So can you explore the stability and the range in your body? So we've got 5 or 8 circles forward, pause, lengthen out of the hip, and then 5 or 8 circles in reverse. Please make sure that your neck and shoulders are not stiffening and tensioning. You are still breathing. So if necessary, you've also got the option of a pillow or cushion under your right ear. After your circles, look down that leg, check that the ankle, knee and hip is aligned, the pelvis is stable, you've got maybe a little gap under that side waist, and we're pushing up and down. So press up, squeeze down, press up, squeeze down for 3, 4, 5, 6, smile, 7, and 8. And you can really start to feel the tonality of the muscles around the leg. And then we're going to bend the knee. So as you bend the knee, can you bend your knee so it hovers above the earth and it's in line with your hip? Bend and lengthen out. Bend and lengthen. Bend and lengthen. So as you bend the knee, use the abdominals. So try to feel that the bending and the lengthening is really coming from the pelvic core and the abdominal core. This will really activate the gluteus medius especially. So you'll feel those lovely glutes around here starting to hug around that hip. So after 5, 6 or 8 of these, bending and pushing away like you've got a button at the end of your mat, bend and tap. So let the knee fold in, the foot is soft, and push. Bend, tap, press, tap, press, tap. So you get this little internal rotation of the hip. Press and tap, press. 5. Breathe. 6 and 7 and 8. And then bend both knees in. Bring the heels to your sit bones. And if you want to lay down on that right arm for a moment and just breathe comfortably, that's fine. I'm going to change to the higher elbow position. So checking, you may want to join me to check that your heels are in line with your sit bones. So making that little V. Stacking hips, arrange comfortably. Oysters for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm just taking my arm up to have a little release there and keep squeezing through those oysters if you can. And can you also engage the undergluteal? So try not to just be in that working leg. And this is really great for stabilizing that pelvis and the low back. And then we're going to lift that knee a little bit higher, but please try not to lay back. So just pause for a moment, lift the knee a little bit higher, lengthen, bend, and come back. So open, lengthen, bend, and then just come back. Opening, breathe, lengthen, Feet come back together, release, just 5 of these, open, lengthen, feet together, release, open, lengthen, feet together and release. Lovely. Okay, so just roll onto your back, and as you roll onto your back body and let your back body be supported, can you feel the generous energy that you've created in that left pelvis? Really hope you can. Inhale, exhale, and just allow, this is not yoga butterfly please, but just allow your thighs to open out. You can support your hands here and just support that opening. So it's known as double fan. And then as you exhale, you don't have to curl up, but essentially you'll draw back together to that hip Y through those inner adductors. So you might need to check that your feet are parallel, you've got even weight through your feet. You just open your thighs enough, just as if you've got a balloon, and as you breathe in, you're inflating the balloon, and as the balloon inflates, it opens your thighs. And then exhale to sort of burst the balloon or squeeze the balloon. Inhale, feel, have you flared your ribs? Are you in a back bend? No. Can you keep your pelvis stable, please? Exhale, squeeze back. Breathing in to open and inflate your balloon, and exhale and squeeze back. And a stronger version of this would be to have knees above hips. It would be requiring more stability in your pelvis to open the knees there, inflate the balloon, and then exhale and squeeze back and feel the gluteals activate and the adductors. So after 5 or 6 concentrated stability with the fan there, hug the knees in, roll up to sitting or roll to one side, and let's get ready for that lovely sideline series. Now the working hip is going to be your right hip. So comfortable alignment of Pilates sideline, elbow below the shoulder, finding the torso is steady, or come into that cradled head position, and then align the legs approximately, not in a complete straight line. They can come right to the top corner of your mat or sort of halfway long. Now pull up through those ribs and quieten them and soften the shoulders. Going to raise the top leg and flex the heel, so push the heel away and bring that leg a little behind you, and then point and reach the leg forward. So this is Pilates front kick. Slide back, point forward, flex back, point forward. Now if it's really swinging, slow it down. So less repetitions, more precision. Flex back, whoops, and point forward. And you can even soften your lower leg if this is the not as cooperative hip. So remember, we're pointing forward and flexing back. So you flex back to the start position, or you flex and you move your leg back a little bit. But please, if you're moving that leg back, can we avoid a lumbar back bend? So you want to be clear in your Pilates alignment, and you're finding the range that you can fully control. And it's all about the strengthening and tonality that you start to notice. Breathing all the way through, give yourself a little smile. Maybe you're flexing back, pointing the foot forward, flexing back. Now lengthen the hips, so 6, 8 of those, or possibly 10. Really feel good about this waist drawing in, and then start to circle forward for 5 or 6. So circling forward. Inhale, exhale. Remember, you can also lay all the way down, or you can come into your high elbow. And once you've created those lovely elongated circles, you move into reverse. So breathing and moving, and the pace is important. You're trying to really control the circular circles and not rock that pelvis forward and back. Push the heel away after Pilates circles, restack and move up and down with equal effort. So outer thigh squeezes up, squeeze down, up and down, and lengthen. Inhale, exhale, all the way through. You'll start to feel that right hip a little bit burning, but remember, it's whole body practice. Now, bend the knee so that the knee tracks in line with your hip. Imagine that you've just got a table and you're sliding it onto a table. So you're going to bend and lengthen, bend and lengthen, bend and lengthen. You can lengthen it at an angle. That is also worth exploring. And you can lengthen back to the start position. You can lengthen forward. So, you know, I know that we did a certain bend and lengthen on the other side, but it's always worth bringing your inquiry into what really works to activate your muscles. And the bending is a hovering above, and almost as if you're sliding that leg on a table. And then pop the knee down. So tap, point, lengthen, tap, lengthen, tap. The knee kisses and it's internal rotation, and you feel that action also in your side muscles. Lengthen and tap and lengthen and tap and lengthen and tap. Breathe and feel, and then let's slide in for oysters. So hips are stacked, knees are bent, heels in line with sit bones. You might want to lay down again or come to high elbow. Let's go for 10, 9. So you open your knee enough. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Maybe 5 more. And then lift, again, control, reach, bend together. Up, open, lift, reach, bend together. So when we open that leg a little bit higher or a little bit more, feel that, and then hover, underside of waist draws away, lengthen, bend, meet the feet, release. Open, lengthen the leg, bend the knee, meet the feet, and draw back. And when we take the leg away, in other words, the foot moves away from the lower foot, you feel a different part of the gluteal maybe involve, and that's often known, so this is the oyster, and this one is often known as the clam shell. Okay, 5 or 6. And then roll onto your front body. Maybe draw your knees apart just enough and surrender the buttocks towards the feet. And this forms almost like a little stretch out feel. You might want to nuzzle side to side. It really depends where you are in your body. You may have to be more upright, even onto the elbows. Just roll and nuzzle those hips down if you can. Feel like you're slightly stretching out those buttocks. And then flow into all fours again. Knees below hips. And tail root moves up, anterior tilted pelvis, and then tail curls in and down. And if you want to allow that to create yoga cow-cat, cat-cow, then you can. So exhaling to round and scoop. And then coming to high kneeling, just to close this practice today, high kneeling, so stacking shoulders above those hips. Step your right foot forward. Stepping that right foot forward, make sure the left knee is really well engaged below that hip, and just feel that you can be steady here. And you may want to bring your hands down to the earth, curl your left toes and come into a runner's lunge. So push that back leg away and lengthen out, and just feel again the new strength that you should be noticing in that right pelvis and hip. Draw back and come and swap legs. So we're in a high kneeling, stacking shoulders above hips, maybe open that frontal hip space. Step your left foot forward into the split leg stance, so it's a high kneeling lunge position. You can, if you want, bring the hands down to earth or the blocks, curl the back toes, and as you lift, I've got to reach my leg a little bit further back because I've got really long legs. Come into that pose position of a runner's lunge and really stretch the back leg out, and just pause here. And obviously, if you're strong enough to do so, you lift your torso above those hips and you observe the power and strength. You can put your hands on your thigh and then you can come out and stand, but you can also come to stand in other ways. Little circle of the pelvis, find your feet. Maybe enjoy that position of conscious standing. Eyes into the horizon, crown lengthening. Shake out those knees. Breathe in. Greet your day ahead. And as you bring your palms into the center, draw them down into the navel and remember that postural support of those internal muscles. And thank you so much for being here today.